What was the most petty thing an adult did to you when you were younger? I have horrible handwriting. I have forever. No amount of intervention or practice has helped. When I was in 5th grade, my social studies teacher seemed to take a lot of pleasure in constantly reminding me of how awful my handwriting was. We used to have to bring out notebooks up for her to check our homework. I dreaded this so damn much. She would hold up my notebook so the whole class could laugh at my handwriting. I'm grown now, that was a long time ago, but I still hate to have handwrite anything that other people will see. I broke 2 fingers on my dominant hand in 9th grade and had a splint on them so I couldn't write. I had a test at school and the teacher made me write with my left hand, then marked my answers wrong because she couldn't read them. At 16 years old, I had a job at a gas station after school. Did all the grunt work, sweeping cigarettes in the parking lot, emptying trash bins, etc. I'm taking the trash out one day and a grown-ass man in his 40s comes up to me and says something along the lines of, "I make more money in a week than you do in a whole year," and all I could think at the time was, well yeah, I sure hope you do, I'm in high school. Such a petty thing to say to a kid just trying to make a little bit of money after school. I got in trouble in 6th grade for reading during homeroom. Homeroom was like a random 30 minutes period to work on homework, but I always did my homework the night before so I would just quietly read. For some reason my homeroom teacher hated it. One day she just yelled at me for always reading in her class and told me to do my homework. I told her all of my homework was done. She told me to prove it, so I showed her all of my completed homework. Then she confiscated my book and sent me to the principal's office for being disrespectful. I'm still salty about it. For background purposes, my full legal first name is Abby. Just Abby. All 4 letters, nothing more. My 6th grade social studies teacher one time kept calling out the name Abigail one day. That's not my name, so I don't respond and looking for this new mystery person. She gets up and comes to my desk and asks me, "Why aren't you answering me?" Me, "You called out Abigail, not Abby. Abby is short for Abigail. Go to the principal's office for being disrespectful." I went to the principal's office. P, "Why are you here?" Me, "Teacher called out for Abigail and I didn't respond." P, "Why did you not respond?" Me, "My name is Abby." Just Abby. He pulls up my record and confirms that I am not and never have been an Abigail, and sends me back to class. My teacher never called on me again. More indirectly to me, but when I was graduating high school my aunt asked me which of my late grandfather's rings I'd like as a graduation gift, along with a card/a little cash. I told her I really appreciated the offer, but jewelry just isn't my thing and that I felt like it would be wasted on me. I do have other items passed down from him. She said okay, no problem, and I thought that was that. Graduation came and went, and a couple weeks later a few family members are over for dinner. Well, I'm standing talking to another aunt, her sister, and she walks over to us and hands me a little box. At this point I know what it is, and even though I had respectfully declined before, I decide I'm going to open it and give a wow. Great, thank you. I open the rings box and before I can get a word out the aunt I had been there talking to absolutely loses it. "Are you F# #timesing kidding me? You give that ring to him?" Yelling at her, yelling at me, making a huge scene. Guess that ring specifically was one she had made known she wanted. I looked to my aunt who gave me the ring and she just couldn't hide the little smile on her face. So the extreme pettiness was really between my 2 aunts, and I felt like I was basically set up/used as a tool in the whole situation. Would have felt bad for my other aunt, but TBH most of her anger was directed towards me. She did apologize days later. Should mention I had a few friends over as well witnessing this. Just super embarrassing for me, especially since I had zero interest in the ring. I was at an Easter egg hunt when I was around 6. It was in a big park area with lots of rocks. I saw a little chocolate egg foil glisten and ran over to pick it up. As I reached my hand out to pick it up, a man trod on my hand to stop me getting it, then he called his kid over to find it. A math teacher handed back our tests in class. They were graded and marked and all that. She was going over some of the questions that most people got wrong, myself included, so I was writing down some notes on my test so I could reference it later and remind myself why I got things wrong and what I was supposed to do. She ripped my test away from me and started screaming at me that cheating is absolutely not allowed and that I should be ashamed of myself. Confused and in shock, I started choking up and tried to explain that I was just trying to take notes. One of the most humiliating times of my childhood, around 13 years old, and I still don't understand why it happened. In elementary school I used to talk to the lunch lady every day, and then the one day I didn't say hi. She came to my lunch table and told me I was fake, phony, and a few other things and stopped speaking to me. I still don't understand what her problem was. One of my uncles was in a years-long fight with my mom. To stir trouble, anytime he greeted my sister and I, he would tell my sister how beautiful and wonderful she is and to me just say, "Oh, you're here too," and then promptly ignore me the rest of the night. I used to adore him up to that point, so this ended up in me being extremely hurt and crying to my mom for hours about how I'm ugly and not special. He got his petty vengeance on my mother and crushed my self-esteem. Till today I don't forgive him for it. My 6th grade teacher didn't like me. I had transferred into her class when the tag teacher was needed elsewhere, and this teacher was resentful. She was going to have the class read The Hobbit, long before any movies. I was excited. I had read Reddit and the trilogy the year before. She called me a liar in front of the whole class, then went on a tirade about how kids like me were terrible and thought we were better. I was a quiet, shy girl, and cried. She mocked that too. The rest of the year was hell. She let her pets, officers' kids, it was a school near a Navy base, bully me. I was never good enough. She couldn't fail me because I excelled at bookwork, but she picked on me at every turn. Trash human. In grade 4, a teacher gave us a few questions before lunch break and expected us to answer each of them correctly right after the break was over. A classmate couldn't get a few answers correct, so the teacher made him walk to each bench and get a slap from each student present in the class. Thinking about the incident now, I feel like going back in time and beat the shit of that horrible teacher. I could fill up a fucking subreddit. My high school required uniforms. This extended to PE, but we instead had to wear one of 2 approved PE shirts and khaki shorts. I only had one PE shirt. It had a hole in the armpit. As I walked past, my dad hooked his finger into the hole and yanked to rip it wider. Then he laughed at me when I said I had enough problems without him causing more for me. My dad again took me fishing and told me to invite a buddy. 3 hours in, we hadn't caught shit. But my buddy and I didn't say shit about it. My dad asked if we wanted to just go home. I said yes, and he bitched me out. Called me a mama's boy. Dropped me off about a mile from home, so I had to walk, and told me the car had to be washed when he got back. My buddy backed me up when we got back. My mom did not. Oh look, it's my dad. I came home from school and he randomly said, "Today, you're studying Spanish." I told him I had other homework, but he didn't care. As soon as he left, I started doing my other homework. He came back and took away my book, grounded me, and made me study Spanish. My teacher didn't believe me when I told him my dad wouldn't allow me to do my homework. I definitely don't blame the teacher, that makes no sense. My aunt was unpleasant or weird with everyone, but always particularly cold to me. One day when I was about 14, she took me aside and said she'd held a grudge against me because of my name. She had wanted to call her first daughter that name, but my parents had had a child first and used it. They had no idea she wanted the name and aren't the kind of people who would have done it on purpose. She said she'd tried really hard and had just about forgiven me for it. I just remember being baffled by it and then feeling sorry for her for being that spiteful, to be honest, but it palled later in comparison with all the other crazy, horrible things she did to her own family. Had a teacher in kindergarten threaten to expel me because I was sick and didn't show up the day before. She put me on the spot in front of the whole class, telling me not to lie and that she'd call the principal. I cried in front of the whole class, not knowing what to do. Apparently she wanted to win some attendance award and thought confronting a child was a good idea. Like brew, I was f***ing 5. Still salty on how she got away with it.